Welcome to Movie to Beer, everybody. This is Dan Bergneson, and yes, we have an amazing, crazy episode for you here.
Would you say it's worthy?
It's worthy.
Would you say it's... I don't know any other descriptors for Thor.
I can hold the hammer.
Well, I know all the Spider-Man ones, amazing, spectacular, etc.
I don't know. Thor only has a couple.
Thor, Invincible.
Thor is heroic.
I think he has Invincible and the Mighty. Oh, Mighty Thor.
The Mighty Thor.
Thor.
Yeah. And Thor is a title, not a person.
That's not this movie, Dan.
I know, but we should definitely bring that up at some
we're
point
going to have
later
to.
on.
It's not great.
All right, so we have some great friends joining us for this episode.
Me and Blake. Me expert on Smash.
Smashing Hulk thing.
And I'm Brian. I'm the Norse mythology expert.
There you go.
Hey, where's Loki come from?
Well, he comes from the Jotuns.
Nice.
The Jotuns.
Nailed it.
Yeah, the frost gods. All right, so
Frost Giants.
Frost Giants.
You look so silly right now.
I do because
Hey, we watched Thor Ragnarok.
we did.
I'm
Thor
so
Ragnarok,
excited. I love this movie.
Which, all right, this is a movie that was directed by
Taika Waititi, written
And-
by Taika Waititi, and a couple of other writers, one of whom worked on comic books.
Yeah, so there's some legitimacy to the historical value presented in the film. The story does reflect what happens in the comic books relatively closely.
Mostly the Ragnarok storyline and the World War Hulk storyline.
Yes.
Because like the trailers, we're going to spoil it for you. Hulk's in this.
Yeah, and this has been out for a while.
Since 2017.
We shall spoil
So
away.
if we spoil away, it's fine.
Oh, yeah.
You
There's no one
had ample time to watch this film.
There's really nothing.
Get off your duff and watch this film.
Yeah, there's nothing. Leave your duffs behind.
So
Watch
this
this
is
film.
almost a standalone. There is
Mostly
little continuity between previous and next films. If you've seen the previous and the next film, you'll be like, okay, yeah, it just tells the next part of the story. But literally, if you don't know any MCU stuff, it's
well self-contained. I'm not
very
an MCU guy, and I followed the plot just fine.
I gave Brian a very brief rundown of here's what you might be confused by, and it took 30 seconds.
All right, so Hulk finds himself in a deadly gladiatorial contest that pits him against the Hulk.
Is that really the description you're reading? It starts with Hulk.
Former ally
this is not
and
Hulk's
former
story.
Avenger.
Dan, I'm gonna respectfully shut you down.
Thor's
film-
quest
It follows
for
Thor.
survival.
It follows Thor hunting down as to why there's chaos across the 9 realms.
Hela.
We see that Loki is causing trouble.
Yes.
He falls up to find Odin gone.
Yeah.
We meet Doctor Strange. Nice cameo. Then we meet Hela,
Yes.
Odin's actual firstborn, who is
Once
the
he
true
dies,
antagonist
yes.
of the film.
Correct.
Then we have Thor and Loki thrown across the universe.
The
landing on
multiverse, as it were.
Nope, just universe. Multiverse isn't until after the Infinity Saga.
Yes.
Come on, look who you're talking to. This is why Aaron didn't want to be here.
All right.
No, Aaron is
So-
visiting home, I think.
Yes. So we did also.
Dear
Aaron's-
listener,
He's visiting his Asgard. Sorry.
if you haven't followed the plot yet,
I can't follow the plot yet.
this is a movie about Thor. He makes a list to protect several Jews from Nazi Germany.
True, but
When Thor fights Ralph Fiennes?
Yeah,
Who is it?
Don't
Ray
know.
Fiennes,
Yeah,
yes.
Ray Fiennes. I don't know. All I do know
No,
is we
Brian
watched.
is just screwing around.
It is Ray
We-
Fiennes.
Listen to
Sorry.
Dan.
We did.
No,
And
listen to
Blake.
Blake. Blake knows
Oh
what's
my
going on.
gosh.
So anyway, they land on Sakaar, which is a battle planet from World War Hulk.
Yes. And for those that don't know what World War Hulk is,
Read the comics; they're
read
so
the
good.
comics. They're
So
really
the
good.
Illuminati, a collection of Marvel super geniuses, send Hulk into space because he can't be contained.
Correct.
In the movies, Hulk decides to leave because he can't control himself.
Correct.
They land on this battle planet, which looks like a combination of Jersey and Dubai. Jeff Goldblum chews up all the scenery. We get some nice Loki moments. Thor smashes, Hulk smashes.
And there's an endless beer mug.
Oh, I miss the endless beer mug. Thank
The
you, Dr.
endless beer
Strange.
mug is there. And
So would
along
you say
with
that
this
was
film-
like a Bud Light, a
Speaking
pub
of
beer?
beer,
don't know.
aren't we gonna review a couple beers later in the show?
We will. I'm trying to get to that. So we knew that one of our co-hosts here is doing a specific diet. So we were like, hey,
Is it me? It's my all beer diet. I'm sorry. I'll stop.
Gluten free or gluten reduced, or well, we're just trying some new stuff. That's all
Something
I'm
that
gonna
people
really
who
say.
can't have gluten but want to drink
Correct. I was the other day over
Yeah,
beer.
at,
You're out shopping the other day.
over at Evasion Brewing. So
Where's Evasion?
So they have a tap room in Southeast. So
Cool.
if you're familiar with Portland, there is Southeast Portland off of.
So
they're in-
Southeast Portland.
Yes.
It's not. Is it where Jacobson used to be?
No.
Okay. Okay.
So if you're familiar with where there's
Bridge.
a bridge.
I mean, there are a lot. That's a safe bet. There's a lot of bridges.
Morrison and Belmont, and if you go east a little bit and past 7th, and then you go past right.
I'm gonna
at
link this to my
11th.
parents so they could be super confused, or my dad will start googling where this is.
10th and 11th, between 10th and 11th, which used to be called the goat blocks.
Well, is that where all those goats lived and
Yes.
ate all the grass?
Yes.
Look it up, listeners. It's such a cool little story.
There's now a big place where people can live and shop and get groceries. So basically,
Is it a Fred Meyer's?
no, it's
Is it
a
actual
Market of
shopping?
Choice. It is Market of Choice.
Oh,
There's
okay,
a grocery store there.
Thank you.
There's it's kind of strange. It's on a hill, so there's
I know where that is.
parking
Yeah,
underneath, and there's
Mhm,
the Schilling Cider House, which you can get good ciders at.
yeah.
And then Evasion has a tap room, and this isn't their only
It's
location.
right over
This is
there.
the-
Oh my
It's
gosh!
behind. It's
I've
just
probably
to the
driven by
south.
it like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
It's a neat little spot.
Evasion Tap Room, while you're welcome to bring food in because they only really have potato chips and a few other things, it is a gluten-free location. So
That's so cool.
You should not bring gluten-oriented and or things into the location.
Can I bring my sourdough starter?
No.
Can I bring this loaf of bread I found?
No.
Can I bring a bag of gluten?
So this is a big. They actually have quite a. It's a pretty big space, and recently Evasion post pandemic decided
Is
to
it on
sell off.
Belmont Street?
It's on Belmont and 10th, between 10th and 11th.
It's cool that Brian just knew that.
Yeah,
I'm smart.
It's pretty impressive.
It's
You're a real
cool
city
place.
boy.
I'm going to talk about it more later, but we had. Because one of our co-hosts here is doing a gluten-reduced diet. I was like, hey, I was there the other day, and I was like, these are some really good beers we should try because they are gluten-free. They're made with millet and some other things. So I'm just like, we'll talk about them in a minute. But seriously, though, if you're ever down in Southeast and you want to, in Portland, and you want to try something different, but it's actually really, really good. And for those that like, oh, I'm gluten intolerant, so I had to drink cider and stuff, it's right next to them. So you can't miss it. It's amazing taste and
Very good
profile
beer.
that they do. So beyond that, we watched an amazing Marvel movie. that
Honestly,
sort of stands on its own, but not really.
Most fans
kinda.
agree it's the best Thor movie, Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Taika Waititi's debut to the MCU.
Yeah.
You might know if indie fans or just New Zealanders might know that he's known for What We Do in the Shadows, The Hunt of the Wilder People. Sam Neill has a nice little cameo as Stage Odin. And Topaz is the corrections officer, the person who's checking down the kid who runs off and Hunt for the Wilder People.
Yeah.
Great director, very funny guy. As of this recording, he's kind of taken a turn and become a little the technical term is douchier.
Douchey.
But for a while, he was like a real comedy darling, real fun guy. Didn't have too big of a head, but now he's a little Hollywooded
Does he have
out.
a mushroom cap that's like spotted.
I mean, his hair's all combed back. It's whatever.
he's a
But
fun guy.
but this movie, nice. It's a very Thor Ragnarok joke. But no, this movie is delightful. It has a good balance of comedy, action, sci-fi, some heart. Love nice moments with Odin and his boys.
Loki
Go
plays
ahead.
himself. Thor plays himself. Kate Blanchett plays
Hela.
Their big sister
The
and
big
the
sister.
ender of all.
Well, she's the
worlds.
goddess of death.
Fun note, a lot of people pointed out, so Loki and Hela both have black and green tones, and Thor looks like a Labrador retriever.
Yes.
Are we sure Thor's not adopted?
Correct. Because and that's actually a
That's
really,
probably,
really
that's
good
probably why
question.
Odin adopted Loki.
They point out it's like everything that was told to the people, including
Mhm.
those that were the guards and everybody, was false. It's like, I'm going to rewrite history because I can.
And I noticed this time, maybe for the first time, The murals they put up of Odin's victories look very Christian. A lot of the golden halos behind heads, very like Renaissance era kind of like softer paint kind of work. And then Hela reveals the actual stuff, and it looks a lot more like brutalist and like, scary. I'm sure Aaron would have the right terms.
Real history.
The actual
that
history of it.
the Viking mythology was a brutal mythology.
Yeah,
Okay.
lot more reds, a lot more darks. But
For
yeah,
those that haven't seen many Marvel movies, this is robots punching robots. This is all CGI.
well,
90% of
we
it
were
is
hand
CGI.
wavy because I feel like we came to the understanding the term was that to refer to when you can't follow what's happening.
Right. So there's a lot of fight sequences in here,
Yeah.
and I
It's a
would
Marvel
say
movie.
they do a fairly good job of allowing you to see the main character and what the main character is doing,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to robots punching robots. It's just so much action, so much shit flying around the scene.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dan, you'll have to beep it.
You don't have to beat that.
Okay.
That's legit.
So much stuff flying around scene that you can't follow what's going on.
Mm-hmm. But very much like Transformers.
Exactly.
Hence
robots punching robots.
which is where it comes from. But in
Yeah.
this, it's a lot of a couple of characters and then a CG, blue screen and CG monsters
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of computer generated
It's
action.
all
because it has to
CG.
look like a comic book. And
Yeah.
Hulk's hard to recreate unless you have Lou Ferrigno,
Yeah.
which we no longer have with the MCU because they now gave Mark Ruffalo the voice acting
Yes.
job, which is what bugged me the first time I watched this. Like, why does he sound auto-tuned? Oh, they have
Correct.
him voice acting now.
Yeah.
But Mark Ruffalo is wearing, I think, mocap with like a harness that puts the Hulk's head above him. So people have an eye line, like an eye reference,
Mhm.
so they know where to look in scenes. So it's man fighting cyborg.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll take it. All right, dibs.
I don't know.
TM,
I
TM,
mean,
TM.
It's all right. So
It's a lot of action.
if you are Gen X and younger, you will appreciate what you saw on Saturday morning cartoons as demonstrated on the screen, but with people and a lot better visuals.
Yeah, dude.
It's a lot of computer visuals. And I am not trying to detract from that because it's really well done. It's not over the top.
I think what helps is that the story is kind of grounded. It's Thor.
Well, it's actually a very simple, straightforward story.
Mhm,
It's a hero trying to save his people.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And
Yeah.
he gets thrown into the situation and he has to figure out how can I best the situation. And he's provided with an opportunity both with multiple allies along the way. And he's like, all right, I can turn this around to my favor really quickly. They don't really talk much about what they leave. I'm like,
Well, they
The-
reference that
the world they leave is still there.
the world they leave is still there. They reference that Thor grows because he always had his hammer.
Yeah.
And as soon as the hammer's gone, he arrives in this new place, tries to get it, can't. And then by the end of the movie, he reveals, like, I don't have my hammer. I can't stop this evil. And his father tells him, are you Thor, the god of hammers?
Yeah.
No, that was meant to direct your power. Like, I've always had this power in you. You just need to
Learn to
access
focus it.
Yeah, you have
in
to
some
focus
way.
it. I gave you a learning aid, essentially, like training wheels to understand how to use your lightning. And now you got to start using it, or your people are gone.
I just had a major epiphany.
Love it.
Yes.
So Thor's power comes from within
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
in the same way that Asgard's people are not the place.
But the people.
It's the people.
Yeah. It's a location. Same thing.
Yeah. So the hero's journey mirrors the journey of the people that he saves.
Yes.
In a way.
Delightful.
And for those that may or may not have seen the rest of the 20 other films that came after this,
Buddy, it might be 30 at this point.
at this point,
Skip Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania.
yeah,
Not
there's
worth watching.
the Asgard gets placed back on Earth.
In
where they're
Scotland
escaping
/ Greenland?
Yeah.
Like sort of like
I'm
an
not sure
undisclosed
exactly
non-American space.
And so again, it's about the people and it's not about the location. The location, and I'm glad that the Valkyrie continues on.
Mhm.
Because I think she may help refocus that later on. And you find out in the telling of the story, you have this honor guard
Mhm.
that's trying to protect the people in the land, who get destroyed because of what they're facing, and she has no way to come back from that. She's like, I've lost. And the story is not all is lost. You just have to find it again.
Yeah, and she sure does her best to bury it. Tessa Thompson plays a really good Valkyrie. Just it's a lot of just like comedy and her like joke drinking and like ignoring everything. But then when she fights with Loki and you see her history, her past, like why she bailed on everything, and then her eventual coming around to, well, this doofus seems like he actually has a heart and wants to actually help. Yeah, okay, fine. He's not Odin, which is part of why I think why people follow him. Like Odin had 2 children. They both turned out pretty bad. He had to send one to hell. He sent the other to Earth to like punish him. He adopted one,
and the elder was adopted and was evil.
And he adopted one who then took over his throne. Like maybe Odin just shouldn't have kids.
Yeah.
Just take a puzzles or something.
The mother was right in saying, I just don't worry.
I'm done. No more kids.
No more kids.
I also miss Renee Russo.
Yeah. So if you see
she's still alive, but her character in the second movie.
The
listeners.
previous 2 Thor movies to this one explain a lot of the backstory.
There's a lot of
don't necessarily have to follow it in order to
it essentially gives you Thor's journey. Like he becomes worthy in the first film where he's like, I'm a spoiled brat. I gotta learn how to be not such a turd. And the second movie is him like grappling with his relationship between his homeland and Midgard because he falls in love with Jane Foster, a human, Midgardian, I think they call him.
Yeah.
And his people from Asgard are like, well, what are you going to choose? Like here or there? Meanwhile, like dark elves are attacking. It's a whole thing. But
and then she gets the hammer and becomes Thor.
Well, that's the next one.
That's the next one.
It's such a cool storyline in the comics, and they just kind of biffed it in the movies.
So this film is inspired by actual Norse mythology. But
a little bit.
It doesn't follow it exactly. It follows the Marvel Comics universe, right?
Because Norse Ragnarok is like the Jotun, the massive serpent that's going to eat everything, right?
The Midgard serpent rises up, and and Fenris the wolf, Hera's pet.
Yeah.
Also, so basically, all the evil in the world attack and kill the gods. Yeah. It's the day of damnation,
which the comics adapt to a point in a comic run called Fear Itself, where a bunch of like random heroes get hammers. Like the Thing becomes a raging monster. Spider-Man tries to stop. The Juggernaut becomes like a hammer wielding monster, and the whole thing is like a huge Ouroboros snake eating itself. That's the image for that run.
Yeah,
it's a neat run. It doesn't make a lot of waves, but it's a big like, oh, we want to really focus on Asgard for this one, and it's pretty good. It's a take on that classic Norse mythology.
Yeah, Thor in one of the future films gets an axe and Stormbreaker, whereas the hammer still gets reformed.
Yeah,
and I would say that, does Hera have any? All right, so at the end of this film, it doesn't show her dying. It just shows
a flash of green,
of green, and she's more powerful
as
than
Surtur,
everyone.
voiced by Clancy Brown.
Yeah,
amazing voice actor.
I think I want to say that yes, the realm is gone, and she drew her power from the realm, but she's not gone. I'm like she's Thor.
She is
she's
a goddess
immortal until it's gone.
Yeah. Just like Thor, the power comes from within, not from a place or a thing.
Exactly.
Thoughts on if she's ever going to show up again at some point in time? I don't know. I haven't read all the comics. I don't know. Does she ever come back?
I haven't read the Thor comics that often. I read some of the Chasing Aaron run that inspired the Ragnarok story. I mean, I hate to be like meta about it, but they're putting a lot of money into like other stars coming back and doing stuff. I think they're going to save money on Cate Blanchett returning as Hela.
Yeah.
Maybe in the What If series they do more of those, but I think they're done with that. I don't see Hela coming back specifically. It maybe if Chris Hemsworth agrees to return as Thor, if they have a story that makes him like excited to return, but it seems like he's kind of like, I mean, if it's really good, maybe, but like, again, it's all about the dump truck of money Disney will back up. But if Hemsworth comes back, Blanchett might. There could be a story where they team up, but then that feels very repetitive of him teaming with Loki's story.
All right.
I'm not trying to ramble. I'm just saying this is, maybe.
I've got a specific question about this film.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big superhero film fan.
Get out of here.
And there are others like me.
Correct.
No.
There's a lot of them out there.
No, there's dozens of us.
If there are people out there that are just exhausted by MCU stuff,
fair.
Is this movie worth watching?
I'd say yeah. It's basically a sci-fi movie.
It is. It's very standalone. Most of the why are they doing that or how is that possible kind of questions get answered very quickly. It's not complex. This is a very simple storyline. If you know any Norse mythology at all, you're going to understand who the characters are. There's not a lot of explaining that needs to happen.
Right.
Frankly, the biggest hiccup is that we get Mark Ruffalo suddenly in like the back half of the film
instead of Hulk.
yammering about like, is that okay? Is this Tony's shirt? Like if someone has never watched any MCU movie,
Right.
Mark Ruffalo, Bruce Banner talking about like Avengers stuff. It's like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna be a little funky, but Mark Ruffalo is so charming. He'll probably win him over.
Well,
Like he's a fun guy. He's fun to watch.
You
He's
can pretty much ignore that part or just be like, okay, whatever.
Never. He's so cute.
Well, not ignore it, but just accept it.
Mm-hmm. Like it's silly. It's weird. And there's another human amongst all these random, not aliens, because I guess they're all aliens.
Well, there's Guardian, and then there's a rock person. And
yeah,
then
but there's a mixture of different kind of sci-fi aliens.
It's a real melting pot.
Yeah.
It's a multi.
All going up the devil's anus.
Yes, they are.
Now we're going to see if Dan bleeps that out.
No, because that's what they call it in the film.
Yeah. The dead.
And so there's all these opportunities for different multiverses to drop garbage.
Various universes.
Universes, not multiverse. Universes.
I mean, we'll watch a multiverse movie. I'm just saying, this is all. This is just the crux of the galaxy.
Yeah. So across the galaxy,
if only there's some guardians to watch over it.
Exactly. And so there's stuff being dumped into a specific place, and that specific place is ran by someone who, if you're familiar with the backstory, you would understand.
If you're familiar with the comics, it's Sakaar, a battle planet from World War Hulk.
And the guy who runs it is someone who is been around really. He even makes a joke. I've been around 100 million years.
He got into a machine, got turned into a fly. Yeah. He was a chaos professor. He was an alien who went to Earth to do Earth girls.
Yeah. Jeff Goldblum does a great job of presenting this character who has been around for a really long time. Not unlike the Collector, who's also been seen in various other...
Which I think fans have posited he might be a Celestial.
Yes.
But all the rules around those guys are so wonky and weird.
So it's like...
So he's older than time itself.
Pre-universe time tracking.
Right.
It's an entity that's just been around, and he was somebody who was responsible. I'm talking about Jeff Goldblum's character of taking
the Grandmaster,
the refuge. He took what was left over, so he has a pocket dimension, and he's just hanging out. He's like, I'm not going anywhere.
He does a great job of kind of hamming it up. I mean, he's choose the scenery,
in the right way.
But it works so well in this film.
This movie has a
and I would say, for me, he was really one of the most enjoyable parts of the film. He just plays the character,
the little details,
the character so well.
Yeah, the little details, like when the Valkyrie like touches his face, like, all right, later, and he like blushes and touches his cheek.
Don't touch me.
No, he liked it. He's like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. So is he like Ego?
No,
same
Ego.
Level?
I think same
Ego's
level, but Ego's a different thing.
Post universe explosion, pre-universe explosion.
I think Jeff Goldblum's character, the Grandmaster, is I'm doing the whole title, is pre-universe explosion. I think Ego's post.
Yeah.
I think I got to rewatch the Guardians movies. I love how he just plays like a despotic, psycho, weirdo leader. Yeah. Like he's so charming, but he's such an awful person.
And endless power. He can do what he wants.
As soon as his prize pony is gone for his entertainment thing to distract the poor masses, that's another post-credit scene we missed, is that he gets dropped off and they all attack him.
Yeah.
As soon as his golden goose is gone, he stokes the poor, the unwashed masses, say, hey, go get this thing. I'm going to reward you, probably, but just go ahead and get my thing back. Yeah. Like, he's a real nasty person, but he plays it so charming and silly. Because it's Jeff Goldblum. He's so charming.
All right, so
the Hulk is in this. And
the Hulk is in it.
Yes.
And my one complaint is that I wish I get why. You guys have heard me say this like 19,000 times. The trailers showed him in the to sell the movie. It would have been so good if they hadn't showed him in the trailers, so people go in thinking, all right, Thor's like running around some weird fight planet, whatever. Who's this champion? I see bursts of green smoke. It can't be Hulk. There's no way it's Hulk. Whoa, it's Hulk. This is amazing. Yeah. And that shot's similar to one with Scourge from the comics, where it's just him arriving, center frame of the panel, decked out in like gladiator gear. Hulk's home. The Hulk's where he should be.
So, Brian, question.
Sure.
How sexy is Hulk?
As a non-standard movie, this is based off comic books. This is a story they're trying to fit into
a blockbuster film,
an hour and a half. With 2 hours. Well, 2 hours. With specific stars, and they're trying to tell a part of this huge, expansive story. They selected point A to point B. Were they successful? I mean, I want to say the story, if you're unfamiliar, as you were, walking into this and just watching it without somebody helping you with that. Like, you'd have been like, okay, it's interesting visuals. Do I care about the actors? Do I care about the story that's being told?
I might have been a little bit lost without Blake's guidance, and I've also watched some of the films in the MCU. Yeah. But it is a very straightforward story.
Yeah.
It's a hero that's been banished from his kingdom. He hears that his kingdom is in trouble. He marshals allies to try to re-win the kingdom and save the kingdom.
Yeah.
Without spoiling it, we'll find out whether he's
it's been
successful or not.
He is. I mean, to an extent.
To an extent, he is. Yeah. He is successful.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Until other bad guys show up.
Yeah, but it's very straightforward. I mean, you know who the hero is within the first seconds. Yeah. He's under duress and doesn't lose his cool, and he actually wins his first challenge at the beginning.
With a little help from old Scourge.
And a little help. And then he's on a quest.
A quest.
Yeah, so, it's relatable. It fits into our regular mythology easily. There's nothing complex about what he has to accomplish or his character arc. I mean, his character arc is not great.
Yeah.
But it's, discover the strength within instead of without.
It's almost like the other characters around him had more of an arc. Like Loki became more of a hero from start to finish. The Valkyrie became more of a hero from start to finish.
It's a redemption story for her.
Hulk keep hulking.
Hulk is going to
Hulk smash, as they say.
Yeah,
Hulk smash.
It's a lot like Fury Road. Like a lot of people, I haven't heard anyone really talk negatively about Fury Road. And I've thought about why does no one really hate this? It's a straightforward story.
Yeah.
Hero shows up. They want to escape. They want to get back. That's the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fairly simplistic, easy to follow from that standpoint. Now, for those in the audience who are not fans of the whole robot punching robot CG shit, that this is nothing but CG. Like,
it has to be. He's on.
This is a action entertainment movie.
Yeah, it's a blockbuster.
This is not a drama that you're gonna sit with and chew on.
Do the visuals distract from the story?
I say they enhance it.
Yeah, I don't think you could tell this story without the visuals.
Without the visuals, okay.
And I would say that it does a better job than some films.
Mm-hmm. Intimate Wasp, Quantumania.
Yeah.
Which is
you aren't confused by the action. You know what's going on most of the time.
Yeah.
98% of the time, you know what's going on.
Yeah. I think that this is a good film. I think the acting that was done fits the characters that were presented. Nothing is out of place other than you have to just understand that Loki's story arc, like, if you've seen the TV show and or
basically right after
100 times of like, and it's multiverse shit. This is like, okay,
that's when it gets multiverse. That's when it does. But right now we're in Galaxy. Also, we should talk about the play.
Yes. So there is a play that's demonstrated as soon as Thor gets back to Asgard at the beginning of the film.
Loki is pretending to be Odin, eating grapes and watching the play that's titled like, The Tragedy of Loki of Asgard.
Yes.
Right. The woman who plays Lady Sif, who yells when Thor says, "Go get help! Somebody help!" That's Poppy from Mythic Quest.
Yes.
An Australian actress who knew Taika, and it's fun. It's a fun little bit, but also Matt Damon plays Loki.
Matt Damon plays Loki,
one of the
hilarious.
Hemsworth's brother plays Thor.
Yes,
and old Sam Neill waddles in as old Odin.
Odin. What's going on?
It's such a delightful little throw in.
It's a great cameo piece.
So for those that have
and it's a great way to show how Loki's just like, oh yeah, we're doing great. I'm just watching plays I produce about myself. Like you're not guarding any of the realms. You're failing as a leader.
Yeah. So
you're a bad leader.
Later on in this series of MCU films, when Asgard is on Earth, they actually do it again.
Yeah, there's a point where the drama happens, and the actors come back. Well, I think they have the play, and then the actors come in saying, "Hey, I think we can really find some drama in this," and that's what part of what makes me not love Love and Thunder as much. Is that okay? We didn't need these guys again.
Yeah,
we want more Gore the God Butcher, and you're making it so jokey. But we're not talking about Love and Thunder.
Yeah,
we're talking about Thor Ragnarok.
Yes, we are.
All right.
I think it's a great film. It's my favorite and a lot of people's favorites of the Thor films.
So, Brian, how many times did Led Zeppelin come up in this movie?
Twice.
Boom.
At least twice.
The beginning and towards the end.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice little bookend. Along with the lightning powers.
Were the lightning power and was that a successful utilization of music people recognize to emphasize the mythology of it? Because all of 90% of Led Zeppelin songs are like, yeah, it's mythology kind of stuff going on, or storytelling.
I think the songs were definitely worked with the action.
The soundtrack was completely separate from what happened on screen.
But the soundtrack was very 80s themed, very I think paying homage to the comics, because a lot of the comics that inspired this came from the 80s.
And I would say they also sparked a certain feeling from the audience. That, oh, this is epic. This is great.
Yeah,
super epic.
Thor is gonna bring some
butt. He's gonna bring it.
Also, the lyrics for Immigrant Song, which were the Thor's fight music for the intro and end fights. We come from the land of ice and snow, from the midnight sun where the hot springs flow. The hammer of the gods will drive our ships to new lands to fight the horde, sing and cry, Valhalla, I am coming. I didn't know those were the lyrics. I just liked the sound of it.
Well,
and good. Yeah.
Thematically, they work very well.
It makes perfect sense. It's very James Gunn move where like the song helps inform the scene of the film. Yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it actually really emphasizes and helps. I would say
that's what a good Neil drop should do, is emphasize the scene.
Yeah, it's a little on the nose, but it's okay. This is not some Oscar-winning
It's not some
drama.
think piece.
Did you recognize or hear any other score outside of that?
The like the 80s-esque sound of like whether it's traveling across the galaxy and a little bit of a. I recognized Odin's theme when they got to Scotland / New Zealand. Yeah. And they had that, in my opinion, like heartbreaking scene of Odin saying, "Yeah, I'm done. This could be home. It's fine, but I'm all tapped out, boys. Sorry." And he just fades away like, Dad, no.
So I think we all agree that. So what auditory or what music you heard that wasn't in the film, but was part of the soundtrack.
But you played on your phone?
Staging.
Sorry.
Oh, no. I mean, it's just like, I think it really emphasized, and I think they use it really well. And I think Taika Waititi does that really, really well in all of the TV shows and movies that he does.
Yeah. He's very informed about music.
Yeah.
Really well to help the visuals have more of an impact.
Yeah. As an MCU fan, a lot of the other films don't utilize music as well. Like I've talked to my friend Curtis about this, and there's not really a theme for a lot of characters. There's an Avengers theme now, but it took a lot of time to get there. Whereas, like when you think Batman, you think da 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 da. When you think Superman, you
Spider-Man, Superman,
No, even Spider-Man, it took a while to get that theme. But Superman, you have the John Williams score.
Yeah.
But Avengers and MCU as a whole, not a lot of themes really going on. Like Captain America music's great, but it's all low cellos, Hans Zimmer, making it very dramatic, which works, but like you can't, as your friends, you
can't hum it.
It's tough to hum. Yeah. It's tough to hum. Yeah.
Name our theme. So hum our theme song. So we were watching the SNL 50th anniversary thing just prior to this, And it's really amazing to like think about how much impact that music has as a cultural phenomenon, which is like I'm watching it on the screen and I remember it. I remember that moment.
Thanks to Quentin Tarantino, I have trouble listening to the Joker and the Thief.
Yeah.
Because all I can think about is a cop's ear getting cut off.
Yes. All right.
So that's my joke way of agreeing with you. Like it really connects a scene with your, music's a big deal. It's a huge thing for humans.
Right. It hooks you into your emotion.
Yeah. Auditory, like the smelling, your
ozone as lightning strikes,
your nose,
bring down
your nose, and it would be amazing to watch this with the smell-o-vision going on. But yeah,
a lot of ozone smells as he strikes down lightning, and also Sakaar. Sakaar has to smell, and who knows?
Garbage dump.
Who knows? That Hulk takes care of his bedroom,
or it could smell like beer.
Oh, now what beer would it smell like, Daniel?
There's a lot of interesting things that might have off flavors that it could smell like.
No.
Yeah.
But Hulk hate off flavors. Get out of here, Hulk. Go punch a guy.
So I think this is the time of the podcast, so we're going to switch over to talking about the two beers from Evasion Brewing that we had.
Oh, and they're both from Evasion.
Both from
I didn't
Evasion.
Know that. Fun.
And I would say that with the Thor Ragnarok has its place. It's a good entertainment piece.
Yeah.
There's no nudity, no foul language.
There's some Hulk butt.
There's some Hulk butt, but it's not really.
Yeah, it's cartoon Hulk.
This is literally like
CGI Hulk.
CGI is better real butt.
This is straight up like PG. Know. It's all computer graphics. It's like I watch Saturday morning.
PG-13 just for the murder of actual characters.
Yeah,
it's with the cartoon
there's some
knife.
Destruction.
People get
blood, but yeah.
The one of the Heroes 3 gets skewered. Sits are all skewered.
But there's no blood.
There's no blood.
It's not.
But Odin turns his stardust.
Cartoony violence.
Yes, it's cartoony violence. So I think this is a
what
very
the listeners
accessible.
Can't hear is me steadily weeping as I'm screaming about like Odin dust. Just like with the beers.
I'm trying to emphasize that this is a very accessible film to younger people, as compared to some of the things we've seen in the past,
like Silence of the Lambs
or taxidermy.
I was trying not to say it, and now I'm upset again.
And now you brought us there. Thank you, Brian.
Good. I don't want to be here anymore.
So
we had beers.
This is the time of the podcast.
I haven't had
We're
enough
going to switch over, as mentioned.
No one drank anything.
No one.
No,
we had gluten.
Thor had beer. Thor had unending beer. He had what looked like pub beer, honestly.
Pub beer and never-ending
Coors Light in an endless mug.
He had a Moss Krug.
He had Asgardian Light.
And it kept filling up and filling up and filling up until he set it down.
It filled up once. He chugged it down, and they did it for the effects because all he could afford.
I think it filled up twice because he drank it again and he set it down.
He didn't drink that much. It spilled.
It spilled.
Because Doctor Strange teleported.
Regardless, we had 2 beers.
No, I have to be right. I'm a nerd. I have to be right. So he teleported a couple of times. He kept spilling it, and then he put it down. So you need to stop doing this. I need one strand of your hair. And then he takes it, and then we have the whole scene. Sorry, I'll stop.
Yes, I will take you to where you need to be. So the beer scene, we don't know what was in the beer that was poured, but the beers that we had were from Evasion Brewing, which...
Amazing can art, by the way.
You can go to McMinnville, Oregon, where their actual production is. They do have a tap room there.
It's only an hour away from us.
It is. Well, it's probably less than an hour. It's just south of Portland. So
I drive slow.
Evasion focuses and only produces gluten-free beers. I've chatted with the owner and brewer is a former home brewer who decided, hey, there's an opportunity to take this business and expand on it and make it better beers than what they were doing before, which were gluten-free, but of a different recipe style. And I think what they're doing now has a lot to say to what you can do when you have a little bit of money to spend and you can get some really interesting ingredients. We had this is my party fruited ale and the blood orange IPA. I was there like a couple weeks ago and had a full range of tasters and stuff. And all of their beers, including their darker stuff, they do a couple of stouts and a porter and some other interesting things.
Like with non-alcoholic, do they taste like beer?
They taste like beer.
They're
so cool. Using millet. They're not using most gluten-free beers are using nuts.
So, Dan, for the less educated of us who might not remember what gluten is in, wheat, I'm guessing, is
wheat
full of gluten.
Barley.
Any grains, wheat and barley.
Which is pretty gluten fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
they
rice,
use nuts instead.
Yeah, they use nuts.
Too cool.
Which is not what they do. So they use
Is
millet.
Is nut what they do?
No, that's
Rim
not what
shot?
they do. They use millet and other things. They use a certified so they're located in Southeast Portland. The tap room, not their production. Their production, I believe, is down in McMinnville. They do have another location, I believe. But again, they're really, really under the radar. You're not going to find them very many places because their production's fairly small. They have an amazing selection and variety of beers, which are made with ingredients that are not cheap. But hey, the owner's like, I'm now gluten free, and so we're going to pursue that. And
Love
they're
that.
doing a really amazing job of presenting brewing in a way that I think there's other gluten-free options that are out there that don't taste anything like this. These taste like beers because of the ingredients that they're utilizing. They're, again, people that are using nuts and things to provide protein and some of the body, but those fall very flat really quick. And we've tasted a few of those in the past and not very well.
So just from a standard consumer viewpoint, were their beers relatively affordable compared to standard craft beer?
Yeah, it's going to
around
be
the
the
same
same price point.
Okay, because I heard you mention like it's a little more expensive. Like I know from for myself and for people who are trying to live on a budget, I mostly buy pub beer for the house because I want to save some money and have a beer.
Correct.
And so I was just curious if like it's still relatively affordable to, if you can't have gluten, to still have a delicious beer.
So these taste like beer.
They sure do.
And there's nothing wrong with the other breweries around that are doing gluten-free stuff that doesn't necessarily taste as beer adjacent as these do. The one thing you need to remember is it's the quality of the ingredients, the people that are brewing it, and really seriously, like they're taking their existing recipes and substituting ingredients.
Dan, that's three things.
So they're not taking an existing product and or pulling the gluten out of it. They're using certified gluten-free ingredients and or things that aren't made from grains that you would necessarily find.
So
millet is not something you make beer
basically
with.
swapping their malt.
Yeah, the malts is all they're changing out.
Which I imagine changes the brewing process
A little bit.
Like
I
not
asked them-
not drastically.
It's not super drastically. It's just more expensive.
It's okay. So it's similar to like substituting an ingredient in a dish at home.
Yes,
because you just I can't have whatever, so I'll put in whatever else to mimic the flavor.
So instead of using wheat flour, you're using almond flour for making a cookie.
Similar to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
that's so cool.
The pricing is obviously different. If you were to say, I'm just going to substitute the flour for a nut flour altogether, that's not going to provide the same amount of gluten, the same amount of reaction.
Right. It's a different ingredient altogether.
It's different altogether. So the things that you will find that do use nuts, they're not bad, but they don't taste anything like this. These taste like normal beer.
Do these guys use nut or they use you said millet?
Millet.
What is millet?
It's a type of grain.
Yes. So it is something that doesn't have gluten in it.
Right.
But it is a grain that's utilized in a lot of Southeast Asian cultures.
That's why it sounds familiar. Okay, thank you.
I'm not terribly familiar with it. It's just harder to find here in the U.S. because it's not made here in the U.S. as much as all the other grains are.
It shows up in birdseed a lot.
Yeah. So I just want to say that
millet flour is a gluten-free powder made from grinding millet seeds, an ancient grain similar in texture and appearance to wheat. So it's similar to wheat.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
It's just not as common.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Australian organic PR.
And I would say, so out of these two beers, the first one that we had this is my party shirt fruited ale. And this is 4.8%. It's made with hibiscus, agave, and lime. So it has a very cherry-like approach. It's dry, tongue coating. It just sits.
Yeah,
pleasantly.
It was a very kind of a sweet beer,
sweet tart beer,
and I tasted a little kind of coconut in it.
All right,
a little bit or mango.
See, I didn't get any coconut or mango.
And then, as Dan said, it should taste cherry. I tasted the cherry, but those were the flavors my mind went to.
I got cherry once Dan said it as well, but I mostly just got general, like,
kind of sweet, fruity.
Like, I got just kind of generic sweet fruit. I liked it, but I just didn't get any particular flavor. That being said, I don't like cherry. So when Dan said it, my brain started like shift gears. I said, well, you don't like it as much. Well, I still kind of like it. I just don't like cherry.
Yeah. I enjoyed this beer better than the second one.
Whoa, spoiler alert.
I mean, probably it was kind of a very sweet, light. It felt very light, sweet.
So the
beer.
marketing copy is ale with hibiscus, agave, and lime. You're cool. Your shirt is cool. Everyone at this party wishes they were drinking your cool, flowery beer.
It's great, teeny tiny ad copy.
Very, very small ad copy. Huh. So
they also have the ingredients: just water, millet, rice, hibiscus, lime, agave, hops, and yeast.
So
pretty straightforward.
The hibiscus is going to give it the
recipe.
The millet is going to give it my mouthfeel. The rice is going to give it enough of the sugar enzymes and things there to allow to ferment out. So there's a big difference again between gluten-free and alcohol-free. This is not an alcohol-free beer. This beer itself is 4.8%, at least on the can. That's what it says. I believe that to be the case. Yeah, they treat it like a normal fermentation and the normal brewing process. There's nothing out of the ordinary when they're basically substituting the grains that you would use a 4 or a 6, but they're using millet.
Now, Dan, I don't want to get us too far off topic. Between this and a non-alcoholic beer, is there a huge difference in the brewing process? I imagine there's less of whatever ingredient for non-alcoholic.
Not necessarily. It depends on if the non-alcoholic approach is to brew a normal beer and then remove the alcohol after the fact.
Okay, I don't think I knew that. I mean, you probably told me.
There's a chemical process they can use to remove the alcohol.
That sounds hellish.
And it's unpleasant. It does not provide a good flavor.
It feels like to be more pure to just try to make an alcohol with a beer without alcohol. Correct. Which might be impossible.
No, I mean there's hot water and all kinds of spritzers and things that you can find on the market.
But I mean like more like a Roaming Nobles, what North Athletic Club I think is doing. Like those guys who are making a beer that's
correct.
Like I guess 0.05 or whatever, 0.5 alcohol, but it's technically non-alcoholic. I'm in quotes.
Yeah. So from what I understand or what I've heard is that
I don't think they're using millet or rice.
No, they're using regular standard brewing process.
That makes sense.
But the yeast they're using doesn't convert as much, and or they're using a chemical to pull the alcohol out during the fermentation process. So the yeast still does its thing. It kind of tastes like beer, but then
it takes in what it needs to and burps out what it doesn't.
Yes. The carbonation then is what you're looking at. Alcohol and carbonation are the byproducts of the yeast eating the sugar.
Oh, I didn't know carbonation was part of that. That's so interesting.
Self-carbonation.
The yeast is farting.
Yes.
Gross.
Pretty much. But we're digressing into something else.
I didn't mean to get so off topic. I was just really curious when you kept commenting on non-alcoholic versus this. I thought, I wonder what the difference is.
People kind of confuse the two. And so like,
I mean, I wouldn't hate a full episode about this.
Yeah. So gluten-free beers.
Hey, listeners, tell Dan you want a full episode of us discussing non-alcoholic and gluten-free beers.
And yeast farts.
Yeast farts. Mostly yeast farts.
So
an Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin.
So your guys' thoughts on this beer?
I really liked it. I thought it was delightful. I would drink this with any MCU movie, bar a couple of the ones that are a little more quote unquote serious.
But it tasted like beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a very sweet beer.
Mm-hmm. Sweet.
It was like if a cider had more body to it.
Yeah.
Because ciders are usually, I like a cider that's pretty light and dry.
If you love an IPA, this probably isn't the beer for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you like sucking on feet, you dirty pervert, you're not going to like this beer.
Not unlike the second beer we had.
This is for all you foot freaks. Sorry, Dan.
Not open ferment.
You can bleep that if you want.
And that's where we're like, okay, gluten-free doesn't mean you can't do open ferment, doesn't mean it can't be sour, doesn't mean anything.
Again, open ferment's just the tank is open?
Yes. You're allowing bacteria to infect it.
That seems way too straightforward to be correct.
It is correct.
And just
listen to Dan, Blake.
Never.
The second beer we did from Evasion is the Blood Orange IPA, which is 6%, 50 IBU. It is a mild fruity hoppiness from the Citra and Mosaic hop varietals. The blood orange bitters beers are front to back, it is literally dry. It is very, very dry, but very pithy. And the malts actually kind of, while there aren't any malt in it, it's not a 2-row or 6-row malt, you get this mouthfeel.
Yeah.
Which I'm really like, how are they doing this? Because it's like it helps support the bitterness level. Because if it's not balanced, it's just like, oh, this is bitter beer face. It's not a Keystone. It's not bitter beer face. But this does have a large amount of bitterness to it.
Well, they're clearly using Asgardian magic.
Yes.
Which is so advanced, we just think it's magic. It's just science.
Correct.
May I read the ad copy?
You may read away.
Yes, please do.
Overwhelmingly refreshing, mild fruity hoppiness from Citra and Mosaic varietals underpin and balance the unmistakable blood orange. Is it the perfect summer companion? Not my best work, but I'll take it.
Yeah. So
at least I didn't do Hulk voice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a lot.
Overwhelming, no.
Yeah. So some people would say you mask the off flavors with sweetness or with other flavors or bitterness.
I feel like it's been a complaint from a lot of people.
This doesn't need to mask anything. It is what it is. I mean, I've made a pale ale that's very similar to this, that has a real similar profile on the level of bitterness and the amount of orange pithiness. I applaud them for this beer because it actually has a very pleasant flavor profile. For those that are hop heads, it'll be hoppy for you. For those that want just like, I am not a big IPA fan, but it needs to be flavored. The blood orange quality of this, like, it really stands out. The
which is
sweetness
weird,
isn't there.
Which is weird because
bready.
I love a blood orange beer. I didn't like this as much as the first one.
Yeah.
Like I usually love a blood orange. There's a Pulp Crusher that's out there that I grab at a Chill and Fill occasionally. That's like blood orange flavor, and I love that. But this one didn't quite hit it for me. I did want to say I like how their barcode is shaped like Oregon.
Yeah,
that's fun. Also, the first 3 ingredients match the other one: water, millet, rice, and then buckwheat.
Yeah, so they're utilizing different ingredients to kind of get different mouthfeel. The second beer had a much stronger tongue coating mouthfeel approach than the first one did. The first one was really kind of light and tart, kind of like if you're drinking juice that's really tart.
Yeah.
Versus the second one is like, oh, this is more of a beer. It's going to give you more of a set on your tongue.
It stayed with you a little longer.
Yeah.
How'd you like it?
Well, I would say I got more pink grapefruit.
Yeah.
Pink grapefruit from it.
Hey, I don't
then
hate
blood
that.
orange. The aromatics were very orange.
Yeah.
But the flavor was a little more astringent,
like more sweet,
more pithy sweetness.
Well, just
I feel
dry.
I'm embarrassed to ask this.
I don't like grapefruit.
Yeah,
I like orange much better.
Yeah, that's fair.
And therefore, I didn't like this beer as much because it really had a grapefruit flavor to me.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why I didn't like it as much either. I don't hate grapefruit, but I prefer orange.
Yeah,
I mean, I prefer blood orange, and I've had other blood orange.
The flavor also stayed with me a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's going to linger
the mouthfeel,
like Thor's betrayal from his older sister.
We're going to let it linger. We're going to let it linger, and it's going to linger.
Ah, the cranberries.
Yes, 2 amazing beers from
one good beer and a pretty good beer.
All right, I think they're both amazing. I think
I like them both.
I liked them both. He's got a much more experienced palate.
Dan's trying to get a sponsorship from this brewery.
Or
why not?
I'm going to tank it.
Get people to go visit them and try and find their beers. They don't distribute widely. Seek them out. They do have a big cooler there at the tap room in Southeast Portland you can go to and get their beers to go. I highly recommend if you know someone who's I'm gluten intolerant, not necessarily gluten free, but are gluten reduced.
I'm wondering
here's
if
an option.
I've known people who said they're allergic to beer, and I'm curious if they were just allergic to gluten.
Yes and no. I mean, it's gluten intolerance isn't necessarily the same as I can't do gluten. Period.
This person could not drink any beer, and at the time, all he knew was like grocery store cheap stuff.
Yeah,
and so that's all just like
this
rice,
is not
barley.
A grocery store beer. This would be hard to find.
If they can eat a sandwich, they can have.
I don't think they could. I can't remember.
No,
they
I didn't hang gluten free.
I didn't like that much. I didn't hang out with them that very often.
Fair.
So gluten is something that exists in a lot of different
the gluten
products.
Intolerance.
You can eat French fries. You can eat potato chips. You can eat potatoes.
Yeah, potatoes are.
Potatoes really just carbs.
Correct.
Carbs and starch.
The friends that I have that are celiac disease can't have gluten because it really, really affects them. Versus
ruin your day, your life.
Versus intolerance, which is a completely different dietary thing. And Brian, you're experiencing this. It's like
I am.
There's a certain amount of like, okay, I can reduce the amount of gluten that I'm intaking from the various food
by giving
sources.
Blake my beers. Thank you, Brian.
And sharing that with our friends and
enemies.
There's nothing wrong with that. But hey, again, please seek out this and or any of the other.
Dan, you should put the address of this place in the social bits.
I'll put it out there because I really think they're trying.
They
really,
deserve
really
to
hard.
be supported, so we have
Absolutely.
another option to drink.
I want my friends who can't have gluten, who want to go drinking, to have a drinking option.
Yeah.
And this tastes like I can have whatever. I'm blessed with a very stern constitution with my Irish English heritage. But I like trying like vegan food to see if I like it and go, all right, cool. I don't want to eat meat. I have an option.
Yeah.
If I want to drink gluten-free food, drink gluten-free beer, because if I suddenly, the way I drink it is, if I just suddenly can't have gluten for a while or for whatever reason, I like to have an option. This is great.
And there's nothing to be shameful about it.
Yeah, of course not.
Again, if you go to this taproom location in Southeast, please, you're welcome to bring your food from the outside. Just make sure it's gluten free or gluten reduced. They're pretty hard about that because they want the environment to be acceptable to everyone.
So I shouldn't bring a loaf of bread and just throw it everywhere?
You should not bring your bread or your...
Well, I'm not going.
Yeah.
Don't stab people with your baguette.
But that's how I celebrate. I throw bread everywhere and I stab people with baguettes.
Yeah. All right. So we were talking about Thor Ragnarok, which is a great standalone MCU film.
Not the play.
Not
the tragedy of Loki of Asgard.
Correct. I think we all enjoyed the film.
Yes.
It was not quite 2 hours, close to 2 hours long.
2:10.
2:10.
So it was at least 2 hours.
2 hours.
I feel like both beers matched pretty well, but I feel like the first one matched more.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
I think it was
a little more lighthearted, and the film was kind of lighthearted adventure entertainment.
Yeah. A lot of bright colors. When Dan asked what movie should we watch, and Brian suggested, how about MCU? And I said, well, the most vivid color MCU movie I can think of is Thor Ragnarok. Yeah. It gets away from the first one, which is pretty standard colorization, and the second one's labeled Thor: The Dark World. It's a lot of like grays and blacks and
gloomy. Yeah.
And Thor's red cape is the one thing that stands out. But this one, they're on a bright planet. They go through the Rainbow Bridge a bunch of times. There's a lot of these just vibrant colors. I feel like the tone matched the taste.
Yeah. So check it out if you haven't seen it, or if you have seen it, check it out. And
watch it again. Watch it drunk.
And have a gluten-free beer.
Have a gluten-free beer
and
with
scream
it.
Song immigrant song. Scream, sing, immigrant song while you
sing some Zeppelin while you watch.
A lot of editing Dan's going to have to do on this one.
No, it's all good. I think we all really enjoyed it. I want to say these beers went fairly well with the film.
Do you feel like one went better than the other, or both are pretty equal?
I think the first one, I'm going to agree with you guys. The first one kind of, because it was light and fruity and didn't distract from what we were watching, it presented itself in a nice way. It was dry, and I really liked it.
You and I ran into the problem of it's so crushable, and this movie's so long.
We drank it very fast.
Would you suggest a lighter ABV beer if you want to have a bunch? Because it's a relatively long movie, and it's easy to drink while watching.
We split the fourth because our friend Aaron isn't with us. We had 4 available, and we were like, we're 30 minutes in, and we're done with the first one. Let's find something else to drink. This is not necessarily me telling you to enjoy excessively, but
drink 10,000 beers while watching this movie.
Make sure you plan accordingly, and or
if you don't hydrate, you'll dihydrate, because that's what heroes do.
Yes, they do.
I don't hate that Chris Hemsworth. I think I did a very good job.
Pretty close. Find some water.
Revengers.
Well done.
The Revengers is the name of the group, and you should seek out some water.
He's a friend from work.
He's a big friend from work.
I double checked the trivia. Chris Hemsworth did get that line in the film when Thor sees that the champion, quote unquote, is Hulk. He yells to the Grandmaster, he's a friend from work. That was suggested by a Make-A-Wish kid that Hemsworth went to go visit, because I like to think that a lot of the MCU stars willingly went to go like, oh, who wants to meet our the comic book heroes on the big screen? Heck yeah! And he just took the line and thought that's really funny. That's a good line.
Funny and cool.
It's a great line. It made it in the trailers.
Yeah, it did. So
he is a friend from work.
He's a friend from work.
Loki stabbed me as a snake.
Yes. So seek this film out. Interesting to watch. It's on all the streaming services. I'm sure at this point in time.
If you can't get gluten-free beers, get like something light and zesty.
And zesty, yeah. Either hoppy forward.
Azima, perhaps.
Azima. Or a
Brian won. Brian wins the podcast.
Smirnoff Ice or something.
But hide it in the toilet bowl so people have to get iced. Yeah. Google icing.
Have yourself some prison wine.
You can make sangria in the toilet. That's from Futurama. Anyway.
As always, the opinions expressed during the taping of this recording are those of the hosts. Yes.
I've been Blake. Thank you for listening. If you don't hydrate, you will dehydrate. Please drink some water.
This is Brian signing off. Thanks for listening.
All right, everybody. Take care. Thanks for listening, and we'll